Hi everyone, good morning. Happy New Year. My name is Macy and I am the founder of Autism Career Pathways and the director of Catch Clinic in San Francisco Bay Area. So this month I am dedicating this month to talk about all things school related, including IEP goals. And my partner today is here. Okay, we're gonna do this. Good connection, hopefully, so we have a good recording. How's everyone doing? Hey, look at
Hey, can you
you.
hear me?
I can
I
hear
know I did my hair.
you, and I did my eyebrows. So that's
I know. I like I'm so used to just doing eyebrows nowadays with just the
yes,
mask. This is just
right,
perfect.
right. You look fierce, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm tired, but
I
so I
know.
hope this makes up for it.
Well, just get some coffee. We'll be fine. There you go. You're ready to go.
Okay, I'm ready.
So thank you so much. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then we'll go into our chats. So, and then this will give people time to come in. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Danielle. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Danielle. If you follow me on social media, I am known as Mornings with an OT Mom,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a platform that is meant to educate and empower all professionals and prospective students and just anyone who wants to learn more about occupational therapy, a divergent
Oh, okay.
child, which is something that I'm doing right now, which is I have my little boy, Lukey, and my husband, Chris, and they're super supportive of, all the awesome things that I'm trying to do on here. But it's more about educating and empowering the parents and other professionals to a more
Mm-hmm.
positive approach to
Yes.
embedding mindfulness and movement into everyday activities. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
from an
we
OT.
also, yeah, from an OT perspectives, but I think what you're trying to educate others, it's also good for the adults, all the moms and the dads and the teachers and all of us. So you and I have sensory processing disorders, and we are two mamas who are also neurodivergents ourselves. And I get asked this question a lot from parents of younger kids. So, the sensory processing stuff, that's going to go away, right? As my kid gets older. And I always try to explain to them, well, the profile might change, but it will always be there. So what's your take about how would you answer that question to parents who ask you that question?
I get asked that question a lot. And I
Right.
think what I like to rephrase or help kind of reframe it back in answering
Hmm.
is everybody has a unique nervous system, and every
Right.
single individual has their own way of how they are processing the world around them within all their seven senses. And
Right.
I think that you only get one nervous system, and yes, it can have adaptive responses within certain environments, but I'm 38 and I'm still working every day to reach
Yeah.
that optimum level of arousal, that
Hmm.
self-regulation piece. And I think,
Hmm.
give or take, how your environment and the people that are within your environment respond
Hmm.
to you and or either honor where your sensory,
Hmm.
processing is at, or just in an environment where maybe you don't have a choice and it's just not going to be an area where you can thrive. I think it's important to have tools in your tool bag for
Right.
everyday life. And I think it's I know parents want like a magical answer, like, yes, if I
Right.
do this X amount of times, it will go away. But
Hmm.
it doesn't go away. It's a part of you. So honoring it as a part of you, and showing how that's just
Yeah.
giving you as a parent more information about how your child is interpreting the world around them and what
Hmm.
supports they would need to be as successful as possible.
Yeah. So can you go back to, you mentioned seven senses. So I think can you name them for some people who don't know?
Yeah.
And also for moms and dads here, don't forget that we as the parents, we also have sensory profiles. So people always think,
Mhm.
oh, my child's sensory challenges, but we're forgetting, as all human beings have all of us. So can you tell us the 7 senses?
Yes. So we have the 5 typical ones that everybody has heard about. It's, your vision, your hearing, your taste,
Mm-hmm.
your touch, and your smell. So you have these 5 senses, but then you have the 2 hidden senses. And I mean, we even have like this 8th little fun interoception, but I won't go into that right now. But you
Yeah.
have vestibular processing, which is how your inner ear fluid is processing information and where your head is in relation to your body and things around it. And
Mm-hmm.
then your proprioception awareness, which is where your body is in space, what all your joints and your muscles are telling you, like where your body is, how it's moving, and that like gradation of pressure. Like, when you go to pick up something, if you think
Yeah.
it's heavier than expected, you use
Right.
more force as opposed to light. So,
Mm-hmm.
and those senses are actually some of the most important senses that we have and are the foundation for academic learning. So when there are
Mm-hmm.
some extra needs for support in
Mm-hmm.
those areas of sensory processing, when those supports are given and provided, you start to be able to help children and even adults be able to regulate in a way that works best for them and their nervous system, not like one size fits all intervention type of concept.
Yes. So let's talk about the role of self-regulation and learning. That's a good intro into just learning in general, whether it's at home or in the classroom. So how can we promote optimal learning in our kids?
That's such a loaded
That's
question, and I'm going to
Yes.
break it down because it's a
Okay.
great question. It's actually
Yeah.
the question that a lot of people should be asking. So,
Mm-hmm.
we have children now more than ever starting school with missing parts in their foundation, either due to exposure, not able to have access to services, but there was something that
Mm-hmm.
occurred that didn't
Mm-hmm.
allow these kiddos to move their bodies in space, figure out where they are, learn
Right.
all about how they're processing information, and have multiple opportunities before
Mm-hmm.
the age of 5, before we even put a pencil and paper and expect our kids to sit, attend, and learn. So now you have all
Right.
these kids that are coming in the school system that they're still in this play-based mindset. Remember, a child's
Mm-hmm.
main occupation is to play, and you
Yeah.
learn through play. But then all of a sudden, they're expected to sit, to attend, to know their letters, to
Right.
start writing, to have all these things. And then you start to see the gap get a little bit larger in certain
Right.
kids, and it's a lot. So you wonder, what we need to do is embed mindfulness and movement in the very beginning.
Right.
Have our preschool programs set up through play-based learning, less seated, structured tasks, but
Mm-hmm.
it also takes revising like the Common Core standards that don't
Yeah.
really include
Right.
components to support that, and kind of rethinking how people look at the educational system in general through
Mm-hmm.
utilizing like multi-tiered system of supports, response to interventions, having OTs come in and run movement groups in the classroom.
Yeah.
All of these things are going to support learning. They're going to
Right.
support retention of new skills. And then they're
Right.
going to be able to help us as professionals identify which students need additional individualized supports. So
Mm-hmm.
it's given immediately in a way that's best for the student with, dignity, and just making them as much a
Yeah.
part of this process as we
Yeah.
possibly can.
Right.
But it takes so many different, I'm realizing now, it takes so many
Yeah.
different
Right.
levels to do that, but there are ways to embed. If we did that at an age, to have kiddos be able to regulate based on what they need, and having teachers realize how to do this multi-sensory classroom environment and get
Right.
used to movement, get used to things that don't seem typical for learning, but actually the research shows is extremely beneficial for self-regulation and processing to support
Yeah.
academic success.
Yeah. So what you just told us about is, I think, of one for the adults, for the guides, whether your parents or teachers, to have a different mindset when you think about all of the kiddos and think about what kind of is there something in the rhythm of the schedule, the flow of the schedule that can be changed, as well as maybe the setup or break time and so on? So it could be a universal design for
Yes.
everyone in the classroom.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's what it is right there. That's the key. If everything had a universal design, then it would be accessible to all in theory. And there would be individuals that would be a part of this, all of this, working from all different perspectives on how to make these inclusive environments based on talking about the barriers that occurred with them or within the educational system, and help really trying to build these classrooms that are just enriching everybody's academic success. And I think you mentioned something really important about like schedules and environments and break times, even at home and at school. So, you know, Luke is in special education, and even though we're distance learning right now, it is still very hard for him to sit and attend to a screen. He's 3, but they're doing a great job trying to have manipulatives and engage. But I think one of the other things that a lot of things that I get are, well, they keep it together at school and then they break apart and they fall apart at home, or they keep it together at home or fall apart at school. So making sure that these techniques, like we give Luke continuous sensory input whenever he needs it. He can take a break whenever he wants. There are things that he has to do, like when it's school time or within the schedule, but we're implementing strategies every day. And is it, as a parent, is it exhausting? I wish I could be like, look, let's just go sit over here and you could do it, but it's not that easy.
No, it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
And, you know, it's our job as parents. I know we're tired. I know, you know, we have a lot of other, you know, outstanding occupations and things that we're doing, but when we try to implement and do what's best for the kids at home, it really supports at school, because that's what they're already doing at school. So then it's like they get used to this nice continuity of style, and then we get to learn more and more about what is going to make our kids be as successful as possible across both settings.
So ideally, for all of neurodivergent students, they're given the opportunity to learn using multisensory approach, like project-based learning. So my son, who's 12, he's in a great project-based learning, where when you walk into the classroom, they're all working on the same subject, but you will see a group of kids researching on a computer. You'll see one kid reading on the floor. And I love that. We're so lucky that we have a district program that's PBL. You know, that is like the optimal, I think, learning mindset for neurodivergent students. But can you talk more about multi-sensory approach in learning? Like, what's that all about? And
So what I like to think of it as is, yes, you might see occupational therapists give out a lot of materials. Some of like the key items that you might see us give out are TheraBands, wiggle cushions, Theraputty, weighted items. However, what you want is you want all children to have the ability to have access to things that will help them self-regulate, an environment where they can thrive. And when you have a group of just 30 students all together, you have so many different nervous systems that need different things to thrive. So I understand how it's so complicated to approach this, because it's something that is so different across each individual. However, where you start is enriching your environment with things that are accessible for all. So a variety of weighted items, a variety of textured items available to hold. You have different areas of the room that are like the calming corner, the mindfulness tree, like different things that each kid can either work on and go through. And then what happens is when you start to see kids that aren't gravitating towards that, you ask them, hey, what do you want to see in the classroom? Make the kids a part of their multi-sensory learning. We forget, we are all about like, train the teacher, do this, but like, how about the teacher and the students work together with an
Right.
occupational therapist to
Right.
talk about all the things that are even available? I have teachers that didn't even know they can use squeeze scissors and ordered like a bunch, and then
Right.
like all of a sudden her kids started progressing with scissors easily. It's not always as simple as that, but I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think that people understand how an occupational therapist role can be utilized within a school setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you enrich your learning environment, all learning environments,
Mm-hmm.
with a sensory approach,
Mm-hmm.
your academic performance will increase. And when
Yeah.
it doesn't,
Yeah.
that's when, oh, I'm
Right.
sorry, I read a question and I think it's a
Yeah.
good one.
That's a
Um,
good one.
Non-speaking individuals tell me all the time what they need to regulate
Yeah.
their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really be in tune with their nervous systems and just watching and listening and looking for those signs of when they are around comfortable and fun
Mm-hmm.
experiences, that you know that and you say, okay, when this individual is here, they are calm, they're organized, they're ready, they're following directions, they're able
Mm-hmm.
to participate in their academics. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you notice that they're having not so nice reactions to it, you note that. That's in the
Mm-hmm.
dislike pile. And you continually offer these choices through whatever communication they are using, because
Mm-hmm.
just because they're non-speaking, trust me, they have a lot to tell you. You just have to
Yeah.
pay attention in a new and different way
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
utilize your speech therapist and
Right.
your teachers and
Yeah.
everybody as a team approach.
Yeah.
So you're constantly analyzing how that individual is trying to express their wants and needs.
Yeah, so to add to that, for non-speaking children, I think our role for as the guides is to really observe. So through our observations, so if you can get your kids involved at home through cooking activities, that's a very sensory rich activities. And then you can advocate for your child's sensory needs at school, and collaborate better with teachers at school. And also, I think for kids, if they know they're allowed to do it and they are provided access, and it could be as simple as having like a box of fidgets like this, at each table, how they group the desks together. And if the kids know that they're allowed to use these sensory toys, I think if they need it, they know they can have access to it, you know.
And Maisie, you bring up a good point, and it's about access and it's about shifting that mindset.
Yeah,
Now, if I'm going to put a table, like a box of fidgets on a table
yeah,
with kindergartners, they're
right.
absolutely going to gravitate to it. They're going to play with it. They're going to get distracted by it at first. But if upon that introduction, if you introduce these fidgets in a fun and amazing way, if you go
Yes.
over what the rules of the fidgets are in a terms of like, this is what they're
Mm-hmm.
meant to do, this is what they're here for, they're to help
Yes.
you learn. And then you have to constantly remind them. You can't just put a box of fidgets, walk away, and expect kids
Mm-hmm.
to work with them appropriately. And if that
Mm-hmm.
was the mindset from the beginning, and you
Mm-hmm.
constantly had to check in and say, how's everybody using their fidgets? Do we need to switch them out? Is anybody finding one that they need or like better? So what you're
Mm-hmm.
working on is you're showing everybody's different, unique sensory preferences. You're working
Yes.
on collaboration and sharing and social
Yeah.
building, because you're sharing sensory resources.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all pre-COVID time, but
Yes,
hopefully we'll be
that's
back to
true.
a time where we can share and do all that.
Yeah,
But
that is
I
true.
think that's kind of the mindset of shifting. It's okay to move. It's
Yeah.
okay to fidget. In fact, you should be
Yeah.
doing so if your body is
Yeah.
telling you you need to. And just because somebody doesn't understand that, they shouldn't think that that way is incorrect for learning.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I love that. It's creating a sensory friendly culture as a universal design in the
yes,
classroom setting. And I'm kind of sad because my son needs these like sensory outlets,
mine
but
too.
but he feels like, oh, I don't want to do that because I will stick out like a sore thumb. And I'm like really, really sad because it's really a culture that needs to be changed from very, very early on and as far as our educational setting, because everyone needs an outlet. There's no shame to it. You know what I mean?
I
So, like,
do.
yeah. So, how about we think about like a specific example? Like an example that I can think of when my son was 5 and he said at kindergarten during group like activities, he would just lean like sitting his body like his body needed to touch someone else's body or like an object behind him, and he got into trouble. And my another example is my nephew gets punished a lot for making noise with his pencils because he just needs to tap something to process information. So those are two examples. And usually there's a punishment and consequence for doing all these behaviors, you know. So what would you recommend? How do you educate teachers to have a different mindset? What are some solutions for those two specific examples?
So this question has a lot of components as to the
Right.
success rate of that outcome being achieved. But the first thing that I do is I talk about the science. I talk about the science behind the central nervous system and why it's so important. But the teacher
Mm-hmm.
has to be open-minded and willing to try a different approach and to try
Yeah.
it for longer than 2 to 4 weeks and
Yeah.
to listen
Mm.
to the consultation and actually seek out
Right.
before deeming it like a strategy that's not going to work. So you need that collaboration, and that's why we're here. We're here to support the teacher. We are nothing without the teacher in an educational setting. My whole job exists because a teacher needs additional support to help the student. And then I
Right.
come in and help the student. But everyone thinks
Mm-hmm.
that we're just there to provide this direct service to the student, but it's not. We're
Mm-mm.
providing a service to the teacher. We are trialing out through intervention strategies, working with the individual to then give feedback to the classroom support so they can implement these strategies every day in the classroom. Maisie, there was a
Mm-hmm.
really good question that was asked about
Right.
getting sensory supports into the IEP. And I'm really glad that
Yeah.
somebody wrote this question because I'm going to tell you how. First off, if you don't have an IEP, you can either have like an SST meeting, or if you're in general education with no special education services, you can ask for this meeting where you can start to write and have these things in that says, hey, we're going to trial these things. Get it in writing. And if it's in writing and it's in their plan, the teacher
Yeah.
has to follow it. And we're
Right.
lucky we get to kind of consult on 504s.
Mm-hmm.
We're working, my whole dream is to provide support to everybody in every setting, but we are a related
Mm-hmm.
service. So
Yeah.
the law gets a little tricky there. However, if it's in the SST process and they're coming up with concerns and it's as easy as that to have these fidgets accessible allowed, then that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking at the teacher not being like, it has to be a collaborative effort. Everybody has to be on board with
Absolutely.
using it.
Yeah.
So again, like it's shifting that mindset. It's not really what you think, even if you don't agree with it. You don't have to agree that movement helps, but you have to be open and collaborative for the student where movement does help. Because just because it's a very, see, like that, and that's again like the individualized perception of the nervous system. Well, I don't have a problem processing information. I can sit still for 8 hours. I can do this. So why does this person need it? Well, that's the whole thing. This person needs it, just
Right.
like you don't need
Yeah.
it, but somebody else needs it. So,
Right.
and so a way within an IEP is in the accommodation section. And what I like to write are sensory supports as needed, movement breaks as needed, ability like to like extend assignments. Because if you have them on the accommodation page, it has to be implemented. It's right there. It's there. So if you feel that it's not being implemented or teachers are having difficulty, you can always just refer and say, hey, these accommodations work. So like when we were working on Luke's IEP, I made sure he would have movement breaks, access to sensory materials, and have his like calm down cards because he uses something specific. Now I'm an OT, so I have a little bit of an advantage to help and support IEP goals from a little bit of a different perspective. But as a
Mm.
parent advocating for what you need, you could say, hey, at home, I do this. When our parents tell me what they use at home, that helps me. Let me see if it's
Yeah.
working in this school. It might not. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. They're two different environments. So I
Right.
don't like to lock specific materials into the IEP because
Yeah.
sensory preferences change from day to day, week to week, month to month. That's it can.
Mm-hmm.
So I just write sensory support, trial sensory supports as needed. So then that consists of
Mm-hmm.
everything that you want, and it's in the IEP,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to do it. So So we say if it's not
yeah,
in the IEP, got to be in the IEP.
yeah. So, for the two behavior examples of like my son and my nephew, like an IEP goal written for those specific behaviors would be like Johnny will be able to sit up to 15 minutes in a group setting. That's an example of like a common IEP goal for
Right.
group, which really drives me crazy because like what, so so usually the IEP goals are written in a way that it's actually, changing the behaviors to make it easier for teachers, to teach in a group setting and so on. How can we as parents like influence strength-based, sensory-friendly IEP goals, addressing, I guess, the issue, but in a different, using a different mindset? Like, how would you rewrite something like that in those two specific examples?
So my first thought is if everybody had flexible seating options and access to like pencil
Mm-hmm.
toppers that don't make a lot of noise but still provide the same
Yeah,
input, would there even be a necessity to create these goals? Um,
exactly.
so that's just like that's why I
Yeah,
don't like it's so hard to get other individuals in the
uh-huh.
educational system to
Yeah,
understand the concept
yeah,
that if you spend money this way, it's much
yeah,
cheaper than doing it this way, which
yeah,
isn't as effective as this way.
right,
Remember, more services doesn't equate to more progress with goals. It's all about access and
right,
universal design and enriching your environment so that everyone can be successful, which will just
yeah,
naturally increase everybody's developmental progression and
yeah,
achievement towards their goals. But
right,
what I like to do with the little ones, and okay, so you're not really supposed to make sensory based goals in the educational system. You're not. Like,
okay,
because you're using sensory supports to support the goal. And you're right, I'm actually staring at an attention goal that we just made. And we felt it was necessary to actually say, with the use of sensory strategies, child will
right,
complete a fine motor activity from start to finish.
yeah,
Because we know that the child can do it, but the way that the environment is set up
yeah,
isn't going to be
mm-hmm.
fulfilling of the child to do that. Therefore, the goal has to be created because the environment isn't set up for the child to even be successful in something they can do when they have access to the support.
Yeah,
So again, if the environment just changes through guidance, is this really just a goal or is the
yeah,
child just 3 and learning how to regulate their body? But
mm-hmm.
according to those unrealistic standards in a sense, this is what children their age are supposed to be able to sit and do. And now this
Yeah,
kid whose nervous system is functioning differently, he doesn't, that's not how he wants to learn. He wants to stand and run and then do
yeah,
complete the puzzle like in a different order. Why
yeah,
can't he do that? Because it doesn't look like the way that you think it should be done, because it doesn't match how someone's doing it. Like, eh. So that's where the big issue is. So
mm-hmm.
again, in the educational systems, we don't create goals, we collaborate.
Yeah,
So what I like to do is if it's something that I can support the environment, I provide support to the environment without
mm-hmm.
having all these additional goals and
Mm-hmm.
really target the academic goals. Because that's what an
Mm-hmm.
IEP should be for, your academic areas where there's an identified area of
Yeah,
concern. But if that area of concern can be met through environmental
mm-hmm.
modifications, additional teaching strategies and support,
Mm-hmm.
consultation to the teacher
Yeah,
just shifting it, well, then it
yeah,
doesn't not only just support that kid, it's going to support the rest of the kids in the class as well.
yeah,
It's like this kind of like snowball effect for
yeah, yeah,
educating and empowering the teachers. The more the
mm-hmm.
teacher knows, the more they can try things when they're like, oh, I remember this student had this, and Danielle said to try this when this kid is doing this. Now I'm
Yeah,
going to do this. I have
yeah,
teachers that still use my stuff from years later. And
right,
that's how referrals are reduced, because early intervention is actually being
yeah,
provided.
right,
Strategies are being
exactly.
implemented.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. I think what I'm hearing is that it's so important for all teachers to have access to like OT related in-service,
yeah,
like all teachers,
all of them.
because what happened with my kid and my nephew, they don't have IEPs at that
Yeah.
point. you know, so they get dinged and they get punished. And it's really sad. Like I think my kid learned, oh, I have to uncover my ears when I hear loud noises because otherwise I get excluded. So he
Right.
learned, he forced himself, but that's not right. I think that's really, really sad because he didn't, you know, as opposed if the teachers know more about sensory accommodations and can create a sensory friendly classroom, then maybe not so many kids need like these kind of IEP goals, you know, because the
They,
solution could be as
yes.
simple as having a kid like that sitting on a beanbag, for example, or
Mhm.
having a weighted pillow, you know, experiment
Yeah,
like that, you know, and those little things might make a difference.
they do make differences. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really big thing. When I had the ability to create a movement center,
Right.
and this movement center was enriched with opportunities to move bodies and spaces, to practice mindfulness, to
Mm-hmm.
practice self-regulation, just be able
Mm-hmm.
to give these preschoolers, I took them in there one time a week. I was training the
Mm-hmm.
teachers. The goal was to embed this movement time right
Mm-hmm.
after breakfast
Mm-hmm.
and then to come in and start their days. And
Yeah.
after a couple months, like the
Mm-hmm.
kids were more regulated. The kids were learning
Yeah.
more. The kids that were having some extra support needed in certain areas didn't need that
Mm-hmm.
extra support anymore because
Yeah.
everything was coming together because they were provided with an all-inclusive, universally designed program to
Yeah.
meet all needs. And then it helped me identify certain students that I was like, I think I want to assess this kid. A lot of my
Mm-hmm.
referrals come on my own assessment, my own clinical judgment, because I'm in the classroom so much
Mm-hmm.
providing RTI that then I
Yeah.
look and I'm like, something I think I can support here. I want to see if I can. And then that
Mm-hmm.
opens up this great discussion to talk to the parent and say, look, I don't know if they're going to benefit from OT yet. I need to assess them and
Mm-hmm.
determine what's happening, but this is what I'm seeing. And no matter what, you're able to provide those strategies and supports.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the teacher's learning, the parents learning, you're
Yeah.
educating them from the very beginning. And so it's not this like, the doctor gave me a prescription for services. You have to give me services. And it's like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. But let me tell you
Yeah.
what we are going to do. And building that trust that
Right.
we're trying to do what's best and figure out what is the best way to attack the area of need. Who is the best professional to do that? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that takes a little bit more time, depending on what the areas of concerns are. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, another important question, and hopefully this is the last one, and then we can ask if our audience have questions. Um, should you or should you not push through? So let's say I'm thinking about kids who have sensory defensiveness that becomes an obstacle in their learning, you know. So, I mean, of course, picky eating is one, but also we have a lot of kids who don't want to touch wet stuff, icky stuff. I have one of those at home. Like, how do we as parents or teachers, like, gently and in a supportive way to slowly work towards positive changes, adjust our expectations? You know, I don't believe in forcing or bribing, but what would be uh you know, like your recommendations to what's that balance?
I have worked with so many littles under the age of 3 that are literally petrified of certain tastes and textures.
Yeah.
And this is a true central nervous system response. They are screaming, no, no, something is very distressful about
Right.
this. So we should never force our kids to engage
Mm-mm.
in sensory experiences that are giving them this adverse
Right.
feeling. However,
Right.
what we can do is we can set up sensory experiences,
Mm-hmm.
slowly increasing the and exploring like tastes and textures,
Mm-hmm.
and providing utensils and opportunities to still explore these utensils without touching them
Yeah.
with their skin. So
Yes.
A good example I like to say is during the art time. You have the
Mm-hmm.
kids that love to pour the glue, and you have the kids that don't even want to touch the glue. So
Mm-hmm.
you can use glue sticks. You can have paint brushes available to put the paint
Yeah.
on. You can have glue in a cup. So you can slowly do that. And then what you want to
Mm-hmm.
do is you want to model. You don't want to force. You don't want to say try. You can say try this, but you never want
Mm-hmm.
to make it be the definite. So for
Yeah.
example, if I'm running an art center and I have all these materials and somebody doesn't want to paint, I'm going to
Yeah.
show them on myself what it's like and say, it's safe. I'm safe to put this on here. It feels cool, and it might make my hand feel bumpy. And I'm
Right.
describing what it feels like as I'm having a positive reaction to it, which
Mm-hmm.
can be challenging when I don't like to touch certain things and I'm all like, but it works on my own regulation and as like, like
Yeah.
working on my own exploration of stuff as well.
Right.
So, and the kids see that. I'm like, oh, sometimes it makes me feel like it's weird, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to try. And then I do it. Then the kids are
Right.
watching you.
Yeah.
Then they're going to be more open to wanting to try and move forward, especially if
Mm-hmm.
they're still able to play. And maybe they could paint somebody else's hand.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to paint a picture of the hand
There
on the
you go.
paper. Like
Yeah.
it it shouldn't have to be about the compliance aspect. It should never
Mm-mm.
be about the compliance. It should be about the end result. And what's the end result? You want to make a pretty hand picture on the page? Well, someone can paint that. You can paint your friend's page. You could have your friend put their hand on your page. And then we can write a little
Yeah.
note. I wanted my friend's hand on this page. Why is that not okay? You're still doing the same
Exactly. Yeah.
concept
Yeah.
and you're still
Yeah.
actually sharing and learning and growing. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another way to reshape that whole like, they don't like to do this. They don't want to do this. Well,
Mm-hmm.
do they have to? Or is it just something you want them to work on? Like, what's the goal? Because there's a lot of ways you could get to a goal. It doesn't have to be sit and comply and do it with these
Mm-hmm.
three things. Like, there's a lot of different tools and techniques you can use to achieve an
Yeah.
end goal.
Yeah.
So,
But I love those little examples because what you were saying was that we don't give up. We set expectations, but we adjust our expectations so that we allow the child to observe and make decisions that, oh, maybe I can do that. I can do it this way because this way is the most comfortable for me sensory wise. So I think that's awesome. Those are great little examples. Yeah,
oh,
so let's,
Maisie,
yeah,
real
yeah,
fast, you did say, and I didn't want to forget. So, since we both have our own sensory processing challenges and we have
yeah,
our own children with sensory processing challenges,
yes,
I think what's important to know is that we're both real people too. And you
yes.
can't support 24/7, 7 days a week. And you
Mm-mm.
shouldn't have to. What you
Mm-hmm.
can do, though, is on the regular, which is what I love about us so much, is that we
Mm-hmm.
constantly have this mindset of this co regulation. Like, we are aware of where we are, we are
Right,
aware of what we need to fill our cup. We're also aware of how our children are and what they need
right,
for the day. And it's okay
right.
to like check out and have those days where you're just like,
Yeah,
I'm tired. Like, this
yeah,
is a lot. But
right,
always having that open line of communication and respect and understanding,
mm-hmm.
like, I
Right.
know what you need and this is what mom needs to. So it's like, you can't be regulated 100% of the time, but
No,
you can sway how quickly the regulation can kind of go out of balance and
right,
for how long. Because we all know
right.
meltdowns, there are no time frames. It's when the nervous system has
Mm-hmm.
decided to recover and it's got enough input to be able to regulate
Mm-hmm.
and get back to a level of just interaction and ability to just move forward. So
Right.
I think it's about making sure that you have, I always say I have my rainy day bag of strategies when I'm tired and like
Yeah.
I don't want to deal like I have all of Luke's preferred activities, I have all these other things, but it's like I'm still enriching his day with things that meet his
Mm-hmm.
sensory needs,
Yeah.
even if it's not being 100% like active when when you as the human, as the parent are just like,
Yeah.
I'm tired today, like
Yeah.
today, because it's
Yeah.
exhausting,
Yeah.
parenting in general. So,
That's a
and
really, really good point. I think a lot of parents actually have very similar neurology to our neurodivergent children, and we don't think about it that way, So I think those are really, really good tips to just be kind to yourself, and the adjustments. need to go both ways,
I
you
do.
know, right? And you set up, you allow your kids to be on the iPad on the days that you just don't have the energy and just the abilities to engage, because it is exhausting.
It's so exhausting sometimes.
It's so exhausting, you know. Um, so maybe this is a good thing also for parents to think about, you know, your own learning styles. Like for me, because I have issues with executive functioning abilities, like to be able to do that optimally. I mean, um, for me to learn a process the best way, I have to learn by doing. And it's not just one time. And I know you talk about kids with motor dyspraxia and how setting expectations for them to do it as best as they can over and over, even though it's not the same outcome every time, it's so important for them to be able to empower themselves. We should talk about that, because a lot of times, I think as parents, because we're tired, we don't, like, we just let things go. Okay, or
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean? So can you talk about that?
Yeah, I can. And that's actually really great because I
Yeah,
have motor planning difficulties and so does
yeah,
Luke.
yeah,
And I noticed that Luke had motor planning difficulties almost from day one.
yes,
And I started providing him with enriched opportunities to work on his
yeah,
motor planning. And, you know, again, the brain needs repetition. And
yes.
people, again, are looking for this magical number of repetition. So I always say, if
Mm-mm.
you're trying to do something, in your mind, if you need a number, try to do something 3 to 5 times. But if a child is only going to do it once,
Yeah,
let it go.
right.
It's all to be able to
Hello? Okay.
okay, so it's all about finding like a motivating activity or obstacle
Hmm.
course or some kind of fun thing. That's why I love baking. Baking works on
Right.
motor planning so much. You saw my story
Hmm.
yesterday. Luke was so excited. He now
Hmm.
understands measuring. We're at a point where
Yes.
like Luke wouldn't even sit
Yeah.
still for like a second. But you
Yeah.
bring out something he loves and he can touch. And he was very, I had
Yeah.
baking videos of a year ago. He's like,
Yeah.
and then now he's in there, he's touching, he's integrating all of that. So oh, I got away with me. Bring me back. What were we talking about?
We were talking about uh like learning by doing.
Yeah, so this magical
And
repetition number, it doesn't
yes,
exist. You
yes.
have to just keep doing it over and over and
Yeah.
over again and
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
it in fun ways, in meaningful ways,
Yeah.
not just in this robotic compliance way. Like, that's not
Yes.
what you're looking for. You're just looking for experience by doing something
Yeah.
over and over. So, like, every day, like Luke practices getting his clothes on. Does he know how to do it? Yes, but sometimes he'll put, you know, the foot in the wrong
Right.
pant leg or something else.
Right.
But that's all motor planning. And he gets
Yes.
so upset and it breaks
Right.
me. But I sit there and
Right.
I say, look, I will help you, but just let's try. I want you to try to figure this out. And I'm always having him understand and talking to him about what he's doing.
Right.
But if he's so upset, I'll say, Mommy will help you. Mommy will help you finish. Look, we're going to remember, we check here, we look for the back of the tag. And that's why Luke is so independent with all his ADLs, his activities of daily living,
Yeah.
because it's repetitive every single day. But let me tell you, it takes like 20 minutes to get Luke dressed, as opposed to me
Hmm.
dressing him, which is like 3 minutes.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
he feeds himself. He gets his own
Yeah.
fork out. He gets his own cup out.
Yeah.
We have play knives for him that are safety, that he cuts his own
Yeah.
food. All these things are motor planning, motor planning. And what am I doing?
Yes.
I'm doing it every single day.
Hmm.
And it's a way to embed strategies in a realistic environment that's going to support Luke's independence. Not many
Right.
3-year-olds can do that. Like,
Right, right, right. So I think what you've been doing with and for Luke is to help him just like feel empowered to do his best, even though
yeah,
some days it's harder. It may take him longer, but I think he has that imprint and the episodic memory in himself. Of course, because he has you, you guys as parents, that he could just, like, no one has to tell him, but he can tell himself, like, I can do this.
hmm
I can do
and he
this.
gets
Or,
so excited now. I got
yeah.
this. That's his new thing. I got this. I
Aw,
got this. I got this. Because,
I
like,
love it.
you know, he walks across this, like, brick path that we have, and it scares me a little bit, but
Yeah.
I just stand by and I let him
Yeah.
do it. And he
Yeah.
fell safely, and
Yeah.
he was like, it's okay. I got it. And he got up and
Yes.
he did it again. Now, he
Yes.
could have gotten scared. He could have walked away. But
Right.
because that we're always instilling in him, hey, it's okay. You want to try again? Try again. If not, no worries. Like, and
Yeah.
then he'd think about it, be like, you could do it. I got you. You're right here. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I got this. I can do this. And
Yeah.
he knows that we're his biggest support. And he
Right.
knows that we will be there and have this expectation
Yeah.
of routine and
Yeah.
structure, which is what he likes. He likes that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't it doesn't have to be this, all right, tie your shoes. Tie your shoes again. Tie your shoes again.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like,
Yeah.
all right, we're going outside, get your shoes. Okay, practice putting on your shoes. Like, things take longer,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I promise you it's leaving a bigger adaptive response and making
Mm-hmm.
those strengthening those neuronal connections
Yeah.
that might not have been firing as accurately as before, but they're
Yeah.
building. It's making the thoughts connect to the body better
Yeah.
and making that
Right.
execution of the motor task more
Yeah.
fluid, more coordinated.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that is a very important keep in mind for all parents here to just keep working. You can work on one goal, but just keep working on it and don't give up. So, okay. So, does anyone here have any questions? I think we addressed, let me just scroll. I think you did. That was Teresa asking questions. Teresa, do you have any other questions? Melanie, do you have any other questions? Oh, there's somebody from all the way from Tanzania.
Oh,
From,
nice.
yeah, Africa. So I love that. Okay, so I think we addressed all of the questions. But should we announce some exciting things that you and I are cooking up for 2021?
We do. We have something we've been working on in secret for months.
For months. No,
Months.
it's not. It's for a year.
A year? Has it been a year? It might
Yeah,
be a
it's
year. It
been a
might be a
year.
year. I think I'm really exciting, Maisie. You know, you're one of my dearest friends, and
Yeah, likewise.
together with Faye from Nurturing Neurodiversity, the three of us have
Hey.
something that that we've been cooking up, and we're really excited. So make
Hmm.
sure to stay tuned over the next couple of months because
Yeah,
we've really, oh my gosh, there's so much love. There's so much
yeah,
research. There's so many voices that have gone into this
yeah,
project.
yeah.
And we're just really excited over the next couple of months to be able to provide you all with
Hmm.
resources and materials to
Yeah,
support just raising neurodivergent children and just
right.
making the educational system better in so many different
Yes,
ways. A
yes.
totally different mindset. So we're really excited.
Super excited. And when we're ready, hopefully sooner than later, we'll make the announcements. But we're going to start with, I think, hosting Zoom classes on very specific topics such as toileting,
Yes.
um, working on safety issues, and just a couple of these really important issues that parents always have concerns over. And
Or
we're
need a little
gonna,
bit of additional support. Just if you want to
right.
talk about these things and different approaches.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of one size fit all approaches to
Yes.
these things, and we are
Hmm.
here to not have a one size fit all approach. It's more
Yeah.
of providing strategies in a way that's going to empower the parents
Right.
and educators to look at their children and the students on their caseload in a very different mindset,
Yeah.
in a very
Yeah.
different lens, to be
Yeah.
able to help and meet all those goals of potty training, of this, of that. And it's definitely not going to be what you expect, but it's probably going to be what you want to hear if you
Right.
really want to live a mindful, happy, positive life and see
Hmm.
all of the amazing things in all of the challenges that you might be facing. So it's kind of like that mindset of, yes, it can be stressful. Yes, I've been potty training
Yeah.
Luke for a year and a half, but
Yeah.
we're so close. We're so close.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, I think for me as a neurodivergent, I want to be able to advocate and create a different kind of platform, really in a respectful way. And for everyone, whether you're a parent or a professional or an autistic teenager or autistic adult, can all like learn something from what we're cooking up. Like, so stay tuned. So Danielle, thank you so much for your time. Thank you guys for being here, and this has been really awesome. I'm going to publish the recording and you guys can share it. It has been a really awesome informative morning. So
It's
thank you
been
so
great. Thank
much.
you so much for
Yeah,
having me, Maisie. I loved this.
yeah, yeah. Bye.
Bye.